you're out there for just a couple of days, how much prep work do you put into it so that when you get there, you get what you want?
For the New York one, I was basically doing pre-production for 2 weeks on it. I was looking for friends of friends that lived there, trying to find any kind of contacts with people in the city. And we found some people that way, some people through Google, and surprisingly, it works sometimes. And then places like Smith Center, nobody really uses internet out there, and as far as like having a web presence. I went through the Chamber of Commerce and found a lady who was also the coach's wife, which worked out really well. And that was all basically through her. And it's a town of 1,700 people, so as soon as one person finds out, like we were getting calls at our hotel room saying, "Hey,
I was going to ask that. I mean, did you have any trouble getting people to talk to you in any of the places?
No, I mean in every place that we went to, we always try to shoot 12 to 15 people with the idea that we'll only use 10 of them for these, just because some people sound like they're going to be great, and once you start really talking to them, you find out that they're really actually boring, or what they're doing, what they have to say doesn't fit in with the narrative that we're doing for this. So, ideally each one's going to be an hour long, and so like for the Como one, we've done a 40-minute version of it, and that one has about 20 people, where the 10-minute version just has about 10 of them. So there is, a history of each place that we go into a little bit, or want to go into, for each city. So, we would like to go back to Smith Center and shoot for, probably 2 weeks and get a full, hour long where you can really see the whole story. You got a little taste of what it's like to live there. There's, an exodus happening that they're trying to combat, but there's lots of other stories that are interesting in all of these places, and we're trying to hopefully go back and do that.
Well, once you got there and started talking to people and shooting with people, were there any of them where what you thought was going to be the storyline wasn't the storyline?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and we'll find other people that way too. Like in Smith Center, we went there to interview the manager, and again, a momentary lapse, she decided she was camera shy, so she would not let us do anything with her. So we ended up finding the boy he's not a boy, but the kid that's in there. He's actually a man. And he was interesting because he gave us a different side of it. Like he was talking about, he loves McDonald's, and they drive literally an hour and a half into Salina to get a disgusting hamburger. And but then he just mentioned in passing that they have the skate park, and so I'd driven around the square mile and I hadn't seen a skate park. So I was wondering what he was talking about, and then when I went and saw it, I was like, oh wow, this is I mean, that's so indicative of what growing up there is like from my perspective, and so a lot of stuff like that is just serendipity. Yes, sir.
How are you choosing your communities?
How are we choosing
How
the what?
do you choose the community?
Yeah. We started, we were trying to capture, the whole idea of the series is to capture a portrait of contemporary American life, which is such a broad topic. And so, we were going to do one, short film or one, feature-length documentary that was about living in urban or living in rural communities. And so we finally decided that we would just break up, try to get a cross-section of American society. And so originally we were going to do it with congressional districts, and each one, has the same number of people. But that's such a nasty looking map when you actually look at them. There's nothing romantic about a congressional district. And so we came up with the template of the square mile because everybody can relate to that. We can look at a square mile in rural Alaska. We can look at a square mile in Manhattan, and you're looking at exactly the same amount of space. But in Manhattan, there's 68,000 people living there, and in Kennard, there's 251 that are in the square mile we looked at. So, we came up with a template, and then we tried to apply it, equally around the country. So, about a half the population in the U.S. lives in urban areas. So we tried to cover, an equal, proportionate number of urban places, and scattered around the U.S. So each one's a microcosm. We're doing one in Nogales, Arizona. where half the square mile is actually in Mexico and half's in the U.S. So you have these two, cultures that are, intertwined but also independent. And same thing in Barrow, Alaska. 60% of the community is Inuit, and the other 60% is predominantly petroleum based, petroleum industry. And then each one, Como's that way too. It's a perfect square mile that is kind of an island in the west side of Fort Worth. It's got all of these Westover Hill communities, which are totally different, socioeconomically and the history behind them. So we're trying to find all these microcosms, and hopefully together they'll create a tapestry, as we say, of contemporary American culture.